then yes, it's fine that you're in the car and that you aren't putting on your camera. I mean, that's okay. But glad that you're with us. So I think the topics that were to be watched before today were psychopharmacological considerations and patient-client assessment. So we would welcome any questions or comments about those things, and then anything else that is relevant to neurofeedback, the field or the training or whatever you have. So the floor is open if anybody cares to ask or to say anything.
I would ask a question for you guys in your experience. When you guys start seeing individuals and they start treatment and you see progression with the neurofeedback and how things are going, how do you initiate the conversation? Like, how do you open it up to review where they're at with their medication and that they may need to have a discussion with their provider, with their prescriber? What does that look like for you guys?
Okay, so I'll backtrack a little bit. If they're on medication when you're starting, I would address it right there. So, what I'm keeping in my mind is if they're on lots of medications, it's kind of like, oh, in my mind, I don't say this to the person, but I'm like, there are complexities here because the medication is doing a lot of things, and honestly, we don't know what it's doing. Once you start putting a lot of medications together, it's a big mix. But even if it's one medication, I'll ask the person, how do you feel about being on the medication? Most of the people are interested in ultimately reducing the medication. Once in a while, you get somebody that's like, no, I'm fine with it. I can be on it the rest of my life, and that's okay. But either way, you want to kind of give them a heads up that as their brain becomes more regulated, the medication is going to have a different impact on their brain because now, the neurofeedback is kind of making the brain more healthy. And do you still need the medication? What happens if you take medication in a brain that doesn't need it? Well, then you're more likely to get side effects. So with that, you might see neurofeedback going well, they're having progress, things are improving the way you want, and then there's a plateau or actually a decline. And you really have to, at that point, look at, is this due to the neurofeedback? Is it due to their life? Is it due to the medication is now creating side effects that it wasn't creating before when the benefit was more impactful? So at that point, you look with them to speak with the prescribing practitioner to see if they can start to reduce the medication. The client always has the right to reduce the medication, right? Some practitioners might say, no, you need to be on it. But the client can still say, I want to reduce it. How do I do that?
Yeah, I think what I would reinforce is the idea of raising it at the outset. If a person is on one or more psychotropic medications, you want to talk with them about it in the beginning, ask them what their feelings are about it, kind of get a feeling for, do they feel these things have helped, and how, and kind of really get a picture of it, so that as you begin to train, you'll be able to evaluate a lot better the effect from the neurofeedback versus the medication. And as Angelica said, you want to get a feeling for, are they looking to reduce it? Are they looking to get off of it? You know, what do they have? Do they have any goals about it? And because that then, you know, when you do all of that from the beginning, it just becomes a part of the process. And so, yeah. So can we say anything else about that? Anything in particular?
No, I think that answered a lot of it. I've actually, because I've finished all my classes, so I'm actually like all done with that, and I have my equipment. But B Medic ran out of, yeah, I guess what I want to call it, like a zip file, but that's not what they call it. But anyway, I have to get a hold of them, and they're going to download the software onto the computer that I'm using. So I'm actually going to start with family and friends.
Very
um,
good.
hopefully as soon as this weekend. So I'm very excited, but I'm going to treat family and friends the same as I would any client. I want to do a full on assessment. I want to, I mean, I'm going to, just like I'm treating anybody that walks into my office. And so medication, I was glad that that's kind of what is going on this week, because I want to make sure that I'm understanding where they are at with their meds, what that looks like for them. And I know also, just like what Angelica was saying, is, yeah, when they have several maybe different medications that they're taking, I don't know what they experience. I don't know what that means to them. I don't know what they believe that that's doing or what it is doing. I have no idea. And so I have no idea, like, as we start this process and they're doing the neurofeedback and they start to experience different things, what does it look to have that conversation of, is it time to talk to your prescriber about medication changes? Because I know too that I've worked in this field for a long time. Individuals can get very attached to medication when they feel like, no, this is working and I am getting a good result. But I worry, as we do neurofeedback, if things are coming together for them through that process and they're getting a result there, but they keep taking the same amount. But if they do get overly attached to that, what does that look like for them? Because I know too that doing different kinds of treatments can counteract the other. I just have no experience, like I said, with neurofeedback. So I just don't know exactly what it looks like to say, no, you really should go have a talk with your prescriber. We're seeing things in your brain that are changing, and it's like, because I know, like I said, people can be very leery of that, like, ooh, I don't know if I really want to mess with something that I felt like was really working on that end. So I feel like there can sometimes be contradictions, and I just don't know how to work that out necessarily.
Well, Denise, I think a lot of it is kind of what the goals are. I mean, if they feel that the medication's working, and if they do not want to get off of it necessarily, then those things won't be the things you will be working on with neurofeedback. They're coming to you with some desires in mind. And so, it does, when a person is taking psychotropics, particularly multiple psychotropics, it does become a more complex issue. But that's, you just need to, with them, specify, okay, what do you think the meds are accomplishing? If they are not voicing a desire to get off of any of the medications, then it's about, okay, what do you think, or what do you believe the medications are helping? And why are you here? What are we going to work on? And then as you go along, what you would hope to see is that they will maintain the benefits that they're receiving from their medication, and you'll be able to help. Sometimes neurofeedback alone, medication alone isn't as good for a person as is medication and neurofeedback. I mean, we do not want to be so biased against medication. Medication can serve a purpose for people, and so there are times that medication has brought a person here, but they know, their physician knows that there's more, and sometimes the synergy with this neurofeedback gets them that additional benefit.
I think as a general rule, it's a good habit to let the person's primary care physician know that you're doing neurofeedback with them. And that can just be a form letter. Every once in a while, I get somebody that doesn't want me to inform their primary care, which always bewilders me a little bit, but whatever. I just saw somebody today, it was an 11-year-old girl, and the mother didn't want me to let the PCP know, but she's not on medication, so not really an issue. But it's a good way to, kill a lot of birds really by sending out a letter. And that way, when the time comes, at least they're not surprised and they're like, well, what is this? Or, why? Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Let's see. So you're moving along really nicely, cruising pretty fast. Good. Ginny told us earlier she's studying to take her test. She's taken the course before, so don't anybody get freaked out and be thinking you're supposed to be studying to take your test.
Yeah.
Okay, she's taken it twice. Okay. That. But what about Kirsten? What's going on with you? Are you able to talk?
Yeah, I can. I finished the course and I have my equipment as well. And I've started working on myself and my boyfriend.
Right.
So it's the two of us. Yeah. And I was able to get a QEEG done on him for some background baseline information. And that's where I'm at.
You had did you say you had a QEEG done on you?
Yeah.
You launched it.
Yeah.
No, I think she's
Yeah.
now.
Oh, you have a Q on your boyfriend.
Yeah. With a 19 sensor Q.
Okay.
Can you tell us who did that?
Yeah. David Ims.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Out here in Maryland. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to their neurology clinic and had him do one, and he kind of showed me the ropes, which was
awesome.
It was cool. Yeah.
David's great.
And then I also talked with the medic because I want to do go no go assessments with my clients, and they're gonna send me their quick test equipment so that I can do that up until October. So it's really cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are they doing that? Just doing that? They're just offering you that?
Yeah, I had to email I forget his name. Yes. And he said that they could ship me one. So it's really cool.
Oh, that's a bonus. Nice.
Yeah. I also wanted to share too, because I wanted to be able to open up EEG files, like the .EEG file, and Win EEG has a free downloadable software that allows you to at least open those files and look at the raw EEG data, which is kind of cool. Yeah, in case anybody wants that.
Well, actually, that's good to hear, because that had been available for years, and then there was a period that it was no longer free, but you're telling me it's free again.
Yeah, I was able to download it just with an easy link. So
very
I would
good.
have to look into that. Because wasn't that a thing with like what what version of Windows you were using or something, or did they change their program? I forget what the issue, there was a glitch. There was a something. So
I can send you the email that they sent me with the link in it.
yeah, thank you. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. We can
Yeah.
put that in the next announcement as well. That's going to be something not everybody's going to want to use, but that's great to have that.
Yes, yeah, it wasn't good when it, wasn't available. It's good to hear it's available again.
Okay. And then if you want, at some point in the future, if you want to pull up that, again, I know you're in the car, so you don't have everything handy, but if, you ever want to pull up that EEG and we can look at that as a group, that can be very instructive as well.
Yeah, I would love to do that, honestly. And maybe even in the next practicum that we have, I can totally volunteer that information and those assessments if you want.
Yeah, now the only thing is, given that you've told us it's your boyfriend, you might, ask his permission.
Yeah, I'll definitely get his permission.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
Very good. Okay. Nice.
I do actually have a question in relation to the drugs and stuff that we're talking about today.
Sure.
My generation, I will say, tends to use recreational drugs pretty often. And I don't, like, in your experience, have your clients disclosed pretty accurately if they're using things like marijuana or how much alcohol they're consuming? Or is that something you guys end up seeing on the readouts?
I mean, again, it depends upon the client, but I find there's a difference, of course, if a client is a teen or a young adult that is still living with their parents and the parents are kind of bringing them in, and they, then you don't know what to believe, and you can try to build some rapport and then get with the person alone. And I think basically once a person realizes that you are really trying to help them, and when they are coming in for help, and you communicate the advisability of them telling you the truth about the use, and you aren't going to be judgmental about it, but it tells you a lot about their brains. What is their drug of choice tells you some things about their brain. Are there recreational drugs that they had an adverse reaction to tells you some things about their brain. So there's a lot to learn in the information, and so I find most of the time I feel that I can reach a point where I'm getting an accurate accounting of a person's use.
Yeah, I agree. I do a lot more work here with the younger kids than Mitch does. But I feel like if you flow with, what do you do with caffeine? Like it's just part of, like, what are you ingesting? And I'll explain, it's important for me to know what your brain is being fueled with. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking with you about that. And with younger kids, 12-year-olds, I always ask the parent to leave. If the 12-year-old is coming in for developmental disabilities or something like that, I mean, I take that into consideration. But if they're coming in for behavioral problems or emotional management problems, things like that, relational problems, I'll usually ask the parent to leave, explain to them the law in Pennsylvania is over 14, you're allowed confidentiality, so I can't talk with the parent about this, but you're going to be driving here with your parents and it's going to be a pain for you if I don't know this, so what can you tell me about this and how does it make you feel? So like Mitch said, it's not judgmental. It's like, how does it help you?
Yeah, and it's a part of our, intake. It's just one of the many things we ask, and it is, what has been your use of alcohol and other recreational drugs, and when you ask that, you kind of get a feeling if a person is freely answering you, or if they are not, and if they are not, you then you use your clinical skills to kind of get at that and put them at ease and let them know why you want to know. But for a lot of people, you don't, like you said, there's a whole generation out there that this is just a part of their life, and they'll talk about it with anybody who wants to
Yeah,
talk
it's not a thing.
I mean, it isn't a thing for them. I mean, it's the way it is.
Yeah. We had,
Awesome. Thank you.
yeah, we had somebody come in. This was the one referred by John that we talked with Rusty about. But she was like a 16-year-old girl, lots of emotional issues, lots and lots of emotional issues. And, when I asked her, she had, I think her mother came to the session, the first session with her, asked the mother to leave. And I was like, asking her about any kind of non-prescription ways that she helps herself. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, can you tell me what you're using? And she's like, just all kinds of stuff. I was like, well, could you tell me a couple of things? Well, she just reeled off like 5 things like that. We got back her EEG, and I just met with one of her mothers yesterday again, and kind of emphasized neurofeedback with this person, because I don't even know what I'm looking at. There's just so much that's altered the brain. What I'm doing is looking at a brain on a lot of things, and that doesn't tell me how to train it. It tells me what the brain looks like on a lot of things.
Yeah, here's a situation. I mean, this is a good example. People can use recreational drugs, and their EEG will not look abnormal to a neurologist. But this girl was using such a concoction and such an amount that the neurologist looked at the EEG and said, this is not a normal EEG, but I can't tell how much of the abnormality is, drugs or not. I mean, I don't know. But when the drug use has that effect upon the EEG, you can train people when they are using, recreational drugs, and you can have benefits. But if a person's use is to that degree, then to save the person time and the money and everything else, I mean, that they're going to need to find a way to reduce their use, or else it's so that's a fairly rare situation, frankly, which is good. Ordinarily, you can look at an EEG and you can say, well, this appears to be because they use marijuana on a regular basis, but otherwise this is not an abnormal EEG.
Just to piggyback on Kirsten's question, are you seeing an increase because of the use of medical marijuana and maybe psychedelics in people that are coming for neurofeedback?
We're just seeing an increase in people that come for neurofeedback. So I don't know, for some of the reasons.
I mean, I am certainly seeing an increase in people who are taking medical marijuana on a regular basis. Psychedelics, I can't say I've seen so much of an increase. That's been around for a little while. But if you're referring to people who have tried psychedelics in a medical setting as a way to deal with their issues, we are seeing occasional people. I've got one that I'm thinking of right now. I mean, that's certainly that use in a medical way is on the rise as well. Yeah.
Sorry, there's lots of action at the house.
Yeah. Bossing the animals around.
So I mean, I have one person that's been using some form of medical marijuana for a long time. I have somebody else who's about to start who also takes a variety of medications. And so, I think that it does kind of muddy things up. It's hard to see what you're really seeing, right? I have to put the dog harness on. I'm going to just mute myself for a second.
And if a person is going to begin a medication or a regular use of a recreational drug, you want them to tell you that. And if you haven't yet begun doing neurofeedback, if you're in the preparation phase, you may tell them, oh, okay, we're going to hold off on doing any training until we see the effect of the medication or the drug upon you. Because if you begin that and we begin this, we aren't going to know what's what. If you are training a person and there is a change in their medication regimen, or if they tell you, I'm going to begin to do this, I'm going, to try psilocybin or something. Then at the very least, you are not going to change anything in your protocol until you see what is the effect of this additional variable.
And that's exactly what I have to do. This person has at least 25 or 26 sessions and has a history of trauma, has been on medication for a very long time. I think they're hoping that the marijuana will somehow take the place of the medication that they're taking. And it may or may not be a good thing for them, but I think they've relied on medication for so long that it's scary to come off the medication.
Sure.
The psychiatrist wants to bring them off the medication because they're getting neurofeedback and EMDR. And the therapist then recommended medical marijuana. And so now it seems like we're going to add that on. So before this person starts, I will do another mini Q just to establish where they are before they begin to use the marijuana and see if we see changes.
Very good.
Nice. Yeah. And that's a good psychiatrist. That's a lucky find. Locally?
Somebody in Y Missing, Reading, not
Close
too far.
enough. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get that name from you, or if you want
Yeah.
to put it in the chat, that's good to know.
Yeah.
It's always good to know that.
I'll have to check with her to get the name and then I'll share it next time.
Okay, okay, great. Yeah, yeah, good to, when you get somebody like that, boy, you want to hold on to their names. Because they're not, that's not the norm. That's great. Yeah, one of the
Hey,
things.
Ginny. Oh, sorry.
Go
I don't
ahead,
want
go
to
ahead, Kirsten.
Ginny, do you mind if I email you later and just pick your brain about what you do for your mini Q? Oh, perfect.
I put my email in the chat.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you
that's
so
fine,
much. I
Kirsten.
appreciate it. Okay.
Yeah. I'm no expert though. You could ask Mitch and Angelika. I would consider them to be the expert, but I can certainly tell you what I do.
Yeah, I want to hear what everybody's up to and collect different opinions.
Yeah, I mean, she'll say it in a way that it's different or whatever, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's, there should be, Kristen, don't we have a spreadsheet with a Google sheet with everybody's shared information?
Yes, we do, and I will share it again and also put it into chat.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we want you guys to kind of develop, resources among yourselves too, for sure. Yeah, one of the things, people do, I don't know, you'll find people will come in and they'll be like, since I started taking the SSRI, and you're like, wait a minute, I find myself looking through my notes and I'm like, I don't have in here that you're taking an SSRI. And they're like, oh, I started 3 weeks ago. Would have been good to tell me that. People just don't tell you. So it's a balance. I mean, you're going to find yourself in that situation where you feel like, I wish I'd have known this. So alternately, what can you do? Every time ask, have you started taking medication, even though I've told you to tell me that? So, you can say to people, have there been any changes? They'll forget to tell you.
Yeah, I think, again, the best that I think you can do is in the beginning, set the emphasis that, the brain is an electrical chemical process. We will be working on the electrical side. If you do anything that can change the chemical side, and that includes prescription medications, that includes recreational drugs, that includes alcohol, if there's any changes in any of that, it's to your interest to let it be known. And you do what you can in the beginning to emphasize it, and then you hope if there is a change, they'll tell you about it.
I think I would have mentioned this in the course, but it's good to mention it again. If somebody's just on one medication, makes it a lot easier, and you can put that medication name in Google SSRI EEG correlates, and it will tell you how it impacts the EEG. That can be useful for 2 reasons, right? It can tell you if the person's benefiting from the medication, what do you want to do? And it can also, if you get a cue or a mini map, if you see something, or don't see something that you would expect to be seeing, that can also tell you possibly it's a result of the medication you're taking. But that only works if it's one medication.
Yes.
You don't have to know what all the medications do, right? You don't have to become an expert in that. You can look that up.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else with any questions either about that topic or about anything else neurofeedback related?
I just wanted to say really quick, the past 2 days I've been at a conference for the Big Ten Ivy League Concussion Summit. They have a partnership together, essentially looking at sport concussions within the conferences in collegiate athletics. And I will say, just like coming together and listening to all these people, there was no mention of neurofeedback
Sure.
at all, which was expected. And two, a lot of the information was just like, there's such poor numbers right now of retest reliability with all of the concussion diagnoses that we have with like the SCAT5 or the impact test. Like they're not very valid or reliable measures, but we use them for everything. So it's a wide open field still, and it's so interesting with what neurofeedback or how neurofeedback might fit into that.
So, yeah, I'm not surprised that there wasn't anything about a neurofeedback, but was there anything at all about EEG and using the EEG to evaluate?
No. And I was blown away by that because I think it has so much power possibly to help with that. And like physiological measures, mostly like the opportunity of using blood biomarkers was kind of like what the future holds. And that's what everyone was talking about. But yeah, like my advisor was there with me, and we obviously use EEG for all of our research. So it was something we brought up, but not a lot of people are looking into that at all.
What happened when you brought it up?
People definitely think it's a possibility, but everybody goes the MRI route. Everybody goes MRI, and they want to like brain scan. Like University of Nebraska has, since 2019, done baseline MRIs, mid-season MRIs, and postseason MRIs on their football team.
Wow.
But they don't have any data, like finalized data, to show anybody yet. But nobody's using EEG, it sounds like.
So interestingly, you went to meet with David. David, that office was previously run by Harry Karasides, and Harry was a concussion specialist. And he's got lots of information on EEG and concussion. Lots.
And I will say this, I think maybe everybody here realizes it, but the MRI, the CAT scan, yeah, those things are good to look at structural damage that may have occurred. And if that shows up ordinarily, that's really bad. But in the vast majority, the things called MTBI, those things are negative because their focus does not get at, but what can occur obviously is, axons can be sheared, and that's not going to show up on an MRI unless it's a very, very gross occurrence. But the shearing of those axons obviously has an effect, and that can get picked up with an EEG. It's amazing to me how that's ignored. I don't really get it, but I mean that could that could be a part of the medical thing. It's not, but it's ignored. So,
Kirsten's going to change that.
Yeah.
Yes, we hope so. That's the goal here.
Very good. Yeah, so it sounds like you guys are doing some good things. Is there, any particular training you want to talk about, or it sounds like, the medication stuff is making sense to you? We don't have to stay here till the
Right.
whole time.
Yeah.
We appreciate you being here, and we're happy to chat.
Or not.
I don't have anything else to ask.
Okay.
This is
Yeah,
always
so you're not going to
informative,
be
though.
rude if you get off.
I like even just listening. I always learn something.
Yeah. I guess, I keep plugging conferences. NRBS has free webinars every month. What is the next one is going to be on HEG, I think. Am I right?
No, I think that's September, I think.
Oh, the next one's you.
No.
You did it.
I just did it. a couple
Okay.
days
Yes.
ago.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
I don't know what the next one is, but there's one every month. So, and actually we just sent out an email blast to all our students saying, do you want to be on the NRBS list? If not, opt out. So we gave you the option to not be on the list. So you'll be getting that information. You'll be added.
Yeah.
Okay. What did you, so how did yours go? I didn't talk to you about that.
Well, ask Ginny.
Oh, how'd it go, Jenny?
Ginny was there.
You know what? Here, I thought what I really liked about it, Mitch, was that you showed people, all of us, just how complicated some of this is, and then really focused on what was important to know about, like, what you're looking at in a database or an index. And so I found it really interesting.
Yeah, I tried to emphasize that there's a huge amount of research that goes, into these analyses, and people needed to appreciate that. And yeah, so thank you for the feedback, because that's one of the things that I was attempting to convey.
I think that, for somebody who might be using something like that it's also beneficial. But for me, probably won't be using it. It helps me to understand something better when I have more background information. Like, right, the context of something becomes helpful to me. If I can understand, like, how do these things all fit together? I find that useful.
Were you on the J Talk last week? I thought I.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that was really interesting, because you were getting feedback about, what is he talking about? This is really complicated. And I think that it was fine that it was complicated. He jumped right in without really giving some kind of
Always does.
like, this is what we're focusing on,
Right.
and why we're focusing on, where it fits into the whole process. But I learned lots of things, and he talked way too fast for me. So I said to Mitch last week in supervision, I used that as sort of my test, because I've listened to Jay from the very beginning, like when Beth and I started coming to the conferences, and it was like, here's this person talking some kind of alien speak. I didn't understand a word he said. And so I thought, I've listened to him a few times. If I can understand what he's saying now, then I really have made progress. And I could understand, but I couldn't take a note on it because he talks so fast.
Yeah.
There were so many things I wanted to write down. He was just so what a wealth of knowledge,
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
gosh.
Yeah. I have to go back and listen to it, because we got done and I was like, I didn't even listen. I was just like, there were so many questions coming in, and things going on, and then Bessel's texted me, and I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, I gotta go back.
I really like that Bessel was there too, because I think that he was a really nice balance, moderating what Jay was talking about. I thought that I've seen him speak many times over the years, and I just really enjoy listening to him.
Jay has, he's passed it over now. I think it's actually Seaburn moderates it. But if you go on YouTube, there's NeuroNoodle.
Oh, uh-huh. They talked about that.
Okay, yeah. And
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of lectures on there that he's done and different people. He brings in a variety of people and it's free. It's just there.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
Also, I love the website that you shared with us about looking at the EEG.
Really? No
Was that
kidding, right?
Oh my gosh. Because I really struggle with looking at that raw data. And not that I'm better at it, but I do understand a lot more. And he's so straightforward or simple, or I don't know, the way that he explains it is really helpful. I love the little diagrams, how they all sort of evolve and come together.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. When I found that, I was like glued to it. Like,
Yeah.
what is this that I found? And I was
Yeah,
looking up EEG spectrum, or whatever, EEG, Lars's company.
Education and research.
Yeah, education and research, or yeah. So I couldn't think of the name. It was late at night, and I stumbled on that. It was like, oh my god.
Yeah, it was great. It's really good. I'm not done yet, but I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
All right. So
All right.
Thank you.
Nice to
Thank
see
you.
you.
Thanks for being
Nice
here.
to see you.
All
Bye-bye.
right.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.